So great. I love this one. Love this one. Okay. A lot of people get caught with this one because it's talking about what's the two parts of a conditional statement? There is the hypothesis, which is the P, and then there is the conclusion. Hypothesis and the conclusion. You can draw a conclusion if you can prove the hypothesis is true, then you can then say, if P, then Q. Now, I'm going to actually write it like that. That says, if P, then, oops. And why does that matter? Because you'll notice that the if goes along with the hypothesis. So sometimes you see it written out of order. Sometimes they say the conclusion first, and then they say the conclusion if the hypothesis. So that's what they're doing here in this particular case. They're saying a number is divisible by 2 if, if the number's even. So we've got the if part first. The if part is always the hypothesis. If you come up with that, if you have the if and then a statement, that is the hypothesis. So if you know that this is true, this is the case. The number is divisible by 2. And it's a little bit tricky because, as I said, it's out of order. So hypothesis is if, the conclusion would be a number is divisible by 2. We can conclude that it's divisible by 2 if we know that it's even. So the conclusion in blue, the number is divisible by 2. That's the thing we can conclude if we know this. Okay? We're going to use that same thing for 47. Use the law of detachment to draw a conclusion from the given statement, or write not possible. So I can go to the concert if I can afford to buy a ticket. If I can afford to buy a ticket. That's the hypothesis. That's the P. If we know that that's true, then we are led to the conclusion, if I can afford to buy a ticket, then, but you don't see the word then I can go to the concert. Now, with the law of detachment, you're given a hypothesis and a conclusion. You're given a conditional statement. Right? Here's the conditional statement. If this situation is true, then this is going to be true as well. It's not really a real life thing. It's just a hypothetical idea that if that was the case, then we would know this. Then they go further for law of detachment, and they say, now that we've given you this hypothetical statement, we're going to give you a statement of fact. In this case, I can go to the concert. The only way this works is if the statement that they're giving you, I can go to the concert, is the hypothesis. Because you see how that one leads you to the Q. Okay, it doesn't go both ways unless it's a special case where it's a biconditional, right? The converse is true as well. So knowing this conclusion won't lead us backwards to the hypothesis. And that's what they gave us. They gave us the conclusion. I can go to the concert. So does that lead back to, then I must have been able to afford the ticket? Not necessarily, because you could have gotten to the concert some other way. As I said in class today, it could have been that you won it on the radio, or somebody gave it to you as a gift, or you found tickets on the ground. So you know that you definitely can go to see the show if you can afford it. Okay? But if you end up at the show, that doesn't mean that that's how you got there. Okay? Again, that's the hypothesis, because that has the if going along with it, and that will always indicate the hypothesis. So in law of detachment, you need to have that first conditional statement, the I can afford to buy a ticket part. So what can we then get out of this? Well, not possible. It's not possible for us to draw a conclusion from this because we weren't given that the hypothesis is true. We weren't given that the purple part, I can afford to buy the ticket, is true. They never told us that you can afford to buy the ticket. So we can't then say, well, then automatically we know we can go because that's all it's going to take for us to go. So if you end up at the concert again, it wasn't necessarily because you could afford it. Could have been that you got a ticket some other way. So you can't get led backwards. And this does not allow us to use the law of detachment. We cannot use this law. Not possible to draw a conclusion. Okay? That's it. We're done. Go back and review this section in the book if you need to. It's worth it, and you're going to need to know it.